powerful. All right. But you guys know who watches the replays anyway. Someone here must watch a replay. All right. Anybody have actually what we wanted to do? Um, oh, Elaine, go ahead.
Yes, I just had a question about the relation workshop. So you don't have to be a couple to go to
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I have on the event page that you can come as a couple and we can do that. Or if not, you know, most people don't come as couples. It's amazing, but it's very rare to find a couple that's both doing this work. Um, that's amazing. I can't wait for a future that has that. Um, but there's a danger because that danger might be that you guys grow apart. And so a lot of people are too scared to learn the truth about themselves and each other, to take that risk to actually have a unified life and vision. So, yeah, most people are either going to be single or not come with their partner. A lot of people are married, but their partner just might not be into it. But let's say we get, I don't know, 10,000 people doing this work over the next decade. Who knows? Cinematic speed dating. Wouldn't that be something? Could you imagine speed dating with cinematics? All right, shake your hands. All right, next. Show me, show me making love. Show me providing. Show me being a good wife, good husband. For those of you that have worked with me, that that makes sense. For those of you that haven't, it might sound funny, but that's what we do in the cinematic archetype work, where we have people um, show these things through the body, and within 5 to 10 seconds, I can see exactly how somebody relates to those concepts in their life. I mean, the accuracy is like 99% accurate, and I have um, probably around 1,000 videos to prove that. 1,000 sessions that says that how you move is how you move in your life. So, any other questions about upcoming events? Nope. All right. So, um, on our fellowship call, so the fellowship is our weekly um, paid group work where we're giving feedback, receiving feedback, and we're actually doing therapy and real work. These are um, talking about the book, questions and answers, and sometimes shares about what people are learning and discovering. And yesterday on our fellowship call, Hannah started sharing about uh, some of her breakthroughs. And Hannah's been at this process for over 2 years. And it's been a rough ride for her. However, the past few weeks, um, she's had a massive breakthrough after the Cinesomatic Life Map workshop. That was, I don't want to say traumatic, but yeah, it really brought up a lot of stuff for a lot of people. It was very confronting for a lot of people in that workshop. Um, had no idea. It was the first time we did it. But we had people, yeah, facing thoughts of suicide, people facing cutting their life off by decades. We had people dealing with childhood trauma. And then we had people that were also bigger and more capable than they ever realized. And we also had some other people that, wow, their life maps really revealed something about themselves. So, Hannah, if you'd like to share a little bit about some of the things you've struggled with relative towards the breakthrough that you've been having um, since that workshop. You've been in process for a few months. You had a trip and you've done some deep work. Um, but in the last few weeks, like 2 weeks to one week, has been like the breakthrough for you. So if you'd like to set the stage and share, this is a big deal, and it can help a lot of people.
Um, yeah. Let's see. I'm just trying to think of where to begin because there's been so much. Um, yeah, I think so in the life map workshop, um, some of what came up was that um based on how my life map um looked and felt, it would be difficult um to work with me or to partner with me, and um it didn't look like I knew where I was going, or what I was trying to achieve or what the objective was, or um and a lot of that feedback I had been getting from Andrew, but had been feeling really um, defensive towards it and not wanting to take it in. And then that experience in the workshop of that kind of same feedback just being reflected back by everyone was kind of like a nail in the coffin sort of moment. And while it was incredibly challenging, it also kind of felt like it wasn't just um, like the feedback wasn't just coming from Andrew. It was something that could be felt by everyone there. And so that was a very hard reality check for my ego. It was a very humbling experience. Um, and also, I think for me, opened up a lot more trust with Andrew. And then since then, I've been able to have some just things click together that I've had in my awareness, but I haven't been able to bring into um, like any sort of sense for myself. Um, and I hope that this is making sense. I'm trying to kind of speak in a way that if you've, for those of you who don't know all of the details of my journey, it still makes sense. So I hope that it does. Um, so I had a massive breakthrough last week of um seeing the way that I responded to something um in my so I've been working a lot with dynamics with my mother, who I've discovered has there's a lot she's in denial of. There's a lot of emotional immaturity, and there's a lot of like passive aggressive kind of like pissiness that comes through from her. And sometimes it's under the surface and sometimes it's overt. And but I think most of my family and our experience of her has kind of just swept it under the rug and not really acknowledged it being as like sucky as it is. And so I also really have had a lot of judgment for her being that. And then I've seen my younger sisters kind of take on that energy, especially when they were younger. And I had a lot of judgment towards them. Um, and I was going into a lot of like elitism of like, well, I can control my emotions. I'm not going to respond like they're responding. And I was doing a little bit of like better than um, stuff, although I didn't really realize I was doing it. But now I'm like, oh, obviously, of course I was. Um, and so uh, in this breakthrough moment, I was able to like see myself in real time that something happened that irritated me, and I had the internal spirit experience of reacting as in a way that perhaps my mother would, of like being pissy and making it about her and don't do that, da, 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 da. And but then I very, very quickly checked it and overrode that and went into more of like my dad's energy of like rational, calm, abandoning what I'm feeling in order to be a good person and to do the right thing. And I realized in that moment that I've been doing that my whole life with probably every experience that's ever hurt me or irritated me, um, of having that emotional experience that I deemed as too overreactive or selfish or too much or whatever, and then going into, okay, well, what's the highest and best thing that a really mature person would do? And
So
and
into superiority.
yeah, into superiority. And so there was really a ton to unpack there of like, first of all, my initial response is this thing that I have so much rejection and judgment for, and like that is within me, this thing that I've rejected so much in others, of course, is is what I reject within myself too. So there was like kind of a horror of like that, oh my God, that is within me, like that is my first response. And then there was a feeling of, and I've been like abandoning this emotional aspect of myself my whole life. I've been judging it as not not a proper response. And then going into superiority, to do the right thing, be a good person. And so yeah, so that was pretty huge for me to be able to really like kind of slow down and see that in real time. Um, and then where do you want me to go from here? Or are there any parts I'm forgetting about that part?
Why was this such a big breakthrough? I mean, what, yeah, you left out what that's allowed you to do after that. It's why your posture is very, you have all of these breaks in your posture. Yeah. I don't want to, you don't get into feedback here, but it's very interesting to see your body as you're sharing this.
Um, it's uh it's allowed me to be able to trust you more, because I think I discovered that I had done such a good job at overriding that first emotional response, that when you would feel it happening and call me out on it, I would be like, I would just be in denial of like, that's not what's happening. Or I'd be like, well, but I didn't, or I'd be like, but I chose something else instead. Isn't that, shouldn't I be like applauded for that? That I did the right thing. Um, so I think it allowed me to trust you, um, more on like when you're feeling those subtle things.
You're it's so interesting. I mean, this was like the breakthrough of a lifetime, and you're just completely downplaying all of this. Really interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, it just that one awareness collapsed the entire um what's it called? Jingo stack? What's it? Juno? What's the fucking
Jenga
Django?
blocks.
Jenga blocks? Yeah, right. The whole tower. Yeah, it just that one piece collapsed the
Yeah.
whole thing. You know, it was a you pulled the cornerstone out, you know, the linchpin. You know, it was the linchpin, and yeah, because then it invalidated all the other denial and manipulation and defensiveness, and yeah, I mean, it was you got to see that by you being in denial and lying about that and manipulating, and then you seeing how you just did it there, it just mapped out to pretty much like 90% of the other feedback that you were given that you've done that with. You know, so it just, I mean, it just completely, your entire argument and defense against this work and this process, you know, just in an evening, in a day, in a few days, in a few hours, just collapsed. And then that opened you up to going deeper. I mean, you know, there was
Mhm.
all of this further feedback and realizations that you had after that. So, I mean, it's so
Yeah.
interesting hearing you sort of just share it like this rather than the eureka and epiphany that it was. Any idea what's going on for you about this?
Um, I think maybe like a little discomfort about sharing in this group and like feeling um like I think I'm trying to tell I'm trying to relay the information in a way that if like you didn't know the whole all the other details, you'd still be able to keep up. So I may be like in my head about it versus like in the fellowship group, I feel like, um
You just
there's been
report
more,
the details. You don't need to go into any of the specifics. You didn't share any specifics. But okay, well, we're gonna have to talk about that at a different time. Um, but
okay.
you guys are just seeing in real time just some of the stuff that happens. You can have the breakthrough of a lifetime, and the ego gets engaged and starts doing its stuff. Anything
I
else
mean,
you'd like to share?
but yeah, it was. I mean, that was huge, and then so much more,
Yeah.
so much more happened over the rest of the weekend that I was able to go um deeper into, and I mean, I can share some of that if you want, or
No, I
but
think
yeah, that moment was huge.
okay, great. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's bring this.
Hannah, can you guys hear me?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hannah, you just highlighted to me something that I've in the background occurs with me, and you really brought it to the foreplay. Like you can have the most amazing discoveries, like and I had with Andrew. And there's another part of me that diminishes till we're like nothing's ever working, and we forget about how amazing it is. And it was really interesting you watching it in real time here. Like it was an amazing breakthrough, and yesterday you were so effusive and you were so excited about it to bring it, and then today it was just like wow, it didn't take very long for the ego to actually diminish. Now you don't even think it that much anymore, and it was really cool. If you watch the video yesterday and then
Yeah.
watch yourself giving it today, it's a different energy. And but you just really the pop 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 pop. It's actually what I do. And Andrew's like, you've
Mm.
had all this amazing breakthrough. What happened? Like, what? Like these are life changing breakthroughs. And I just sit here. I'm like, it doesn't feel like that much of a breakthrough anymore. It doesn't feel amazing. What are you talking about? And you just highlighted that to me.
Oh, great. I'm
So
glad I'm glad it served. Wasn't
it
wasn't
served
quite
me
what
one of
I
the
was going for, but this is what
yeah.
happens. Yeah, great.
It was an amazing breakthrough, Hannah, but this was even more amazing because it just really showed like you can have all these amazing things happen and there's something bigger at play, just diminishing everything till it becomes nothing. Um, and this is what I'm working with right now as well.
Yo, cool.
So,
Yeah, it's a little bit different than that, but yeah, I can
right.
see that
Mm.
correlation. Yeah. A little a
Hannah,
little more
oh,
a little more juicy than I was expecting to do on a Q&A call, but here we go. This is what happens in this work.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, go ahead, Elaine.
it's just so exciting to see you. Like there's just this new energy about you. You even look different. There's just brightness, this lightness, this like it's shaved off. You can just see you've let go of a lot of stuff, and it's just so exciting. I've just been seeing that in you and just like admiring it and just it's so beautiful. Like just
Yeah,
feel
is
you
it?
come
Yeah.
into yourself, and
Yeah.
it's
So isn't it interesting that that happens and then she comes here and talks like as if it was just making toast?
yeah, but I just could see it anyway. It's
Sure.
still there, but I felt this renewed, and I feel like it's a stopping and it's a shedding of whatever that is, but it's looking good on you.
Mm. Thank you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Elaine. Yeah, and thanks, Darun. I'm glad that that was helpful for something. I think that I was just getting in my head. I wasn't expecting to go into that today. And so I think
That's
I
not
just
true.
started getting it's
Yeah, that's not true. Well, have to talk about it later.
okay.
Yeah, because we talked about you sharing this yesterday on the call.
Oh, I guess I thought we were talking about the next week fellowship call.
Okay.
Hi, Andrew. Can I say something?
Maybe. What are you gonna
Oh,
say?
well, I'm new here and I have been reading your book over and over again. I've been sharing it with my partner and everything that Hannah, I think your name was, sorry, I'm not very
Yeah,
good with remembering names. Everything that you were saying is a lot of things that I realized about myself when reading the book. So even though I don't know you or what you've been through, and not that I feel like I need to know, um, but the epiphanies I've had this week, just these last week of listening and reading to the book. You're talking about relationships with your mother and with your family. I have a twin sister that I have had many stories about, and I've just started doing a bit of the work with the life mapping, and I realized how much I've actually dulled myself down when I can achieve things. So even though I wasn't there yesterday during your epiphany and everything else that you went through, I tend to fall into these little spaces afterwards, especially when new people show up maybe, and you're not sure what to reveal, even though it may be there. So I just want to say I am really appreciative that you shared that, and even what Andrew was saying, I can understand where I do that for myself. And I don't know you, but I really want to acknowledge that whatever this epiphany was, on some level, I've had very similar this week, and so I really can relate. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's nice to
All
meet
right.
you.
Yeah, well, let's have you.
What's your name?
Yeah, hold
I'm
on.
Diane.
Would you like to introduce yourself? It.
Hi, I'm Diane.
Okay, hold
I'm
on.
in Perth, Western Australia. So I'm actually at work at the moment, but I've told my husband I'm having a break to get on the call. Because I have my first call with you, Andrew, on the 24th of this month. So, and the more I read this book, and so the more I immerse myself in these very uncomfortable spaces that I'm going to put myself in, I know it's the only way that I can really get a deeper relationship with myself, because I avoid feeling anything. And I'm doing a master's in art therapy at the moment. And of course, this is all about feeling. And even though you do this through your own unique way, I sort of feel like I have the ability to sort of feel into things in not the same way, but my own way. But I realized how much, even just reading this book, I still avoid feeling. I can go into my head, I can come up with metaphors, I can get people to connect, but I want to be able to go deeper, both for myself and for my own clients. And not that my business is doing great, because I'm avoiding so much in my life. It's affecting everything in my life, my relationships, everything. Yeah, so for me, like finding this book, when I had decided to leave my husband, and then I thought, no, I actually can do this a different way. I don't need to divorce everybody and myself in order to do this. So it was more like I need to know more about myself. I still don't know. And I went through many like spiritual ways of doing things, doing healing. Yes, I can be very good at it. Yes, I can get change, but it's not where I got so involved in stories and how I could do things, and that's not either me. So yeah, I have a lot of stories of myself about turning 50, about, women and blah, blah, blah. But like
Have you
I'm slowly shattering them.
have you done the amnesia exercise in the first chapter of the book?
Yeah, I did. And I'm like, if I can wake up tomorrow, I have no excuse whatsoever. I have no health issues that I would be aware of. I have nothing. And I have a lot of health issues. And I realize, even like reading the book, how much I'm wanting other people to take care of me, because I don't really want to take responsibility of things. So like there has been some real massive reality bitch slaps across my head lately, and like especially with my
I got two
children.
hands for a reason. God gave me two hands for a reason.
Yeah. I got feet and everything. But yeah, it's I've gone to many people here, and they sort of give me a lot of surface level stuff, even the therapies that I've gone to, and they're always trying to be very polite, and I'm like, I don't need polite. I really need to
Yeah, you need to.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be able to see this. And I'm saying this, and I may hate everything about it, but at the same time, it's time. Like I can't unsee the things that I'm seeing, and I'm the only person perpetuating it. And I really need to be able to, not need to, I want to live and I really want to feel what life is because I'll just give you a little example. They talk about menopause. You get hot flushes. I actually get hot flushes and I don't feel my body. I observe my body. There's a difference. And only since reading the book have I noticed that. And I'm like, oh, and am I making this up? Have I bought some story about women in menopause and women at my age and like all of these little things? Like I have dreams at night where I'm getting bitch slapped across my head and I'm waking up and I'm writing these stories out so I can address them. So it's been really wonderful. Like I'm not upset about it. There's a part of me that's like, oh, thank God. Like it really is that, but at the same time dealing with my husband and work and study, and I could see where all of the little stories creep in, you
There's
know,
a lot of, you know,
yeah, in every moment. And I'm like, wow, it's like my whole world has just opened up even more. So that's why I really wanted to attend today. My husband's like, we got to finish this unit painting, but I don't care. Like, I really do need to take time out for me to be able to do this. So
yeah.
yeah,
And, you know, when you do that, you become a better partner. And that's what
yeah,
a lot of people don't see. It's like you go through this work, it's you become a better partner for the other person, you know? So
yeah,
it's yes, it's for you, and yes, you need to do it for you, but from the other side, it's like, you know, imagine you're sick and you're disabled and you're miserable and all these things, these start compounding, and you're not very helpful to anyone
no,
else. And so
no,
taking the time to actually help yourself so you can then be able to truly be of service to others. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's just
Well, my husband's struggling with this. He either takes it very defensively, he takes it really personally,
mm,
and it's like, let's just break this down. Can we just like, I am not having a personal attack at you. Well, what's coming up for you then? And he doesn't even know. It's like he's never even had a place where he could, and I don't even think we've had that kind of discussion in our marriage, believe it or not. Like
wow.
we were on this, I don't know, some ride of a life that was no thrills involved, and there was like, the occasional whatever, the little highlights with our children, and like he doesn't know who he is. Like he's reading the book, he's listening to the book, not reading, but it's like he can't even register, and I know that it's challenging for him. Even my twin sister's reading this book. I have given it to a few of my clients who, like
Thank
I'm
you.
trying not to be
Yeah.
polite to
Yeah.
them, to say to them, look, I think you've got a few stories going, like, and we do this through my work, and it's like, maybe you need to be a reality type too. I don't need to give it to you, just read the book.
Yeah.
You keep getting
Yeah,
stuck, you've got stuff.
yeah, yeah, let me.
Yeah, so and that's why I figured, well,
You know, make an enemy out of me, not you. That's
no,
fine.
I know,
That's what the
and that's
book's
the
for.
thing. I don't want to throw somebody else
Yeah,
under
yeah,
the bus.
exactly. I'm not saying anything, but
Yeah, yeah,
a book
but
called the book titled
yeah,
Maybe It's You. Yeah, there you go.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe it's you.
and but I'm actually realizing how much I'm really afraid to like show myself and what I can do. It's because I feel like someone like yourself has more standing than me. So, and that's another story that I have
Yeah, I mean,
around
what do I have to do
communication.
with your life? I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly, that you don't.
Yeah,
But this is what I'm telling myself.
yeah,
So I am aware of that. And
yeah,
I also just want to have a break from clients because I feel like I'm really in the depths of things at the same time. And it's like, I feel like it was justified. It's not, but, I'm laughing, but it's, it is like even just this conversation brings up some of that.
sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, welcome. And what a brave adventure you're on.
Hmm.
Yeah, if you only knew what you're getting yourself into.
I probably don't know, but I'm sure I'll find out.
You will. Yeah. Well, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Any any questions you have from the material? Anything, questions you have for me? But the book, Q&A calls. Nobody seems to ask me any questions here, but that's what I'm here for.
I've got a question.
All right. You
How
made it,
did you?
Pat. You made it. You're into part 2. Congratulations.
Yay! I know. Yeah, and I've kind of sped on as well. I'm about to read about the dragons.
Oh, and the
Yeah,
treasures. Yeah.
yeah, and the treasures. Yeah. So question is, I feel like we're on question time or anything. Do you guys have question time over there? Yeah, with
I
like
don't
politicians and stuff. Yeah. Anyway,
know.
sorry.
I don't. You're talking to the 2
I've lost
Australians.
people.
Yeah. Okay. So we don't in America. Whatever you're asking for, we don't know in America.
Okay. Anyway, um, how did you find Cinematics? Because I'm guessing you were the founder of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
like how did you find it?
Yeah. So I was the genesis of it came, well, supposedly from my mentor. I mean, we're all still standing on the shoulders of giants. Um, but my mentor was the one who he brought together the movement and the video piece. He started doing dance and stretching movements and movements like that. He did the rollerblading diagnostics and the slack line. So I learned a lot of this through my mentor, and I'm essentially the protege of the work. But there was nothing formalized. There was no name to it. Well, there was multiple long, long, long wordy names. Um, so yeah, essentially when he passed, I sort of took up those reins to um, do something with it because most of his stuff just got sent to the dumps. Um, there was no formalized anything. And so my work has been primarily, what I've learned from him, formalizing it, forming cinematics. I've been trained in all sorts of other things too. So I've incorporated a lot of what I've learned independently myself, and then the actual movement video part came from him, and a lot of the advanced esoteric teachings. And then as I began practicing this on my own, I started doing the archetype work. And so I discovered the archetype work almost emergently by working with clients of like, I kind of don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So why don't you just move in the way that you are trying to think you're going to move? And then very quickly I was like, wait a minute. And then over about, I don't know, maybe about 1 to 2 years, I really was able to solidify um, the cinematic process, the different sort of branches of it, just the general movement work. Came up with a bunch of new diagnostics, improved upon stuff. Um, did the archetype work, and that's just like a huge portion. I mean, that's almost like half. Yeah, I don't say half. That's maybe about a third um, of the work. And then so a lot of it is a lot of the findings of it, as sort of you've asked, has been emergent. So I go in and I say, well, what is this teaching? And so if you go to the Cinematic website, if you go to like the philosophy page and stuff, that's all sort of reverse engineered, emergent from doing the work. It's like, okay, well, this must be true because when I work with clients, this is what happens. And so a lot of what I wrote and what is being solidified here is, again, as I say, emergent. This is not theory, right? I didn't sit down one day and try to theorize something and test it out. I'm in session with a client, or I'm by myself trying to solve my own stuff. and I'm just playing. I'm trying things. I'm saying, do this, try this. And then sometimes something fucking sticks and it's like, oh my God, that's a thing. Um, some of the my clients here that I'm like, I gotta write that down. Like that's a thing. Like we're gonna do that. That's gonna be a new thing. Um, and so yeah, some of the workshops became that. The relation workshop was one of those. Um, all the archetype assessments, the life map workshop. So it's still in process. It's the the core of it, I guess, was you could say the genesis was before my mentor, and then he sort of pieced together things as there was technology. He was in Hollywood, so he had access to some video equipment. Um, and then once he passed, I inherited, the the premise of it. And then as technology progressed, I'm very well versed in technology at a software company and been doing video and photography stuff for 10 years. So I've brought forth the cinematic aspect of it, of using, cinema grade equipment, to put things into slow motion and to film everything. So yeah, it's yeah, I guess that's long answer to a short question. So yeah, it's just a lot, and it's interesting people ask certain things like this, um, because there's so many spots where I could take credit or not take credit, and he could take credit or not take credit, and trying to sort that out, it doesn't matter. I came up with the name, great. I own it. I formalized it. I wrote the books, great. Well, he came up with some ideas. Great. Well, but also someone else came up with ideas. And then we have all of the spiritual teaching and Carl Jung and some, so it's a whole bunch of people, as I said, standing on the shoulder of giants. I didn't just sit here one day and it just, came out of my butt. But, you know, pun intended. Um, this what you're seeing here, cinesomatics as this thing, um, came through my mentor that I've sort of founded and developed in this version iteration.
Do you know how he found it?
Everything I just said, yeah.
Oh, like pulling on Jung and
Yeah, I mean,
all the different
well,
philosophies and stuff.
yeah, I have his library of books. There's books and books and books of many different things. So there's no, it's like, who's the person who invented therapy? It just doesn't, it's kind of like, doesn't make sense as a question. Um, but as someone who brought together video and movement, supposedly, I mean, he's very hush hush on this, but no, there's so few people doing it. It's still cutting edge stuff. It's like, who invented the computer? Well, a bunch of people contributed in different ways. So he contributed, I'm contributing. Um, all the philosophies and teachers, I've studied Alan Watts, Jung, Joseph Campbell. So it's not a satisfactory answer, but there you go.
No, it is
Yeah.
satisfactory.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody else have any questions? My favorite color? No. About the book?
I have one. I think it's more about your particular process, Andrew.
Okay.
You mentioned like you locked yourself up for like 2 weeks, and I imagine a lot of that was also just coming into relationship or facing your shadow. My question is, I mean, how do you make sure that you're like dealing with all the different aspects, or how do you like bring it out or trigger it? Is that just through like all the cinesomatics work, or that you kind of see like where all the distortions are at?
I'm not clear on the question.
Like, how do you make sure you're dealing with all your shadow work? Or
Well,
after that,
I mean, you set aside 5 or 10 years of your life and start going. Yeah, there's nothing that's just like, all right, in one day you've just addressed all your shadow work. That's not a thing. I think the instance you're maybe referring to is when I just lied in bed for 2 weeks and didn't do anything else. That was for one specific thing. That was to feel the depression,
mm,
but that didn't address the 400 other things that I had to spend the next 5 years addressing. You know, but once you address those, they're done. There'll be something else, and there may be another layer, right? Like if you had sexual abuse, there could be 10 layers to it, and so you address the first and then second, then eventually you hit them all, but it requires digging and peeling and going through it. So yeah, there's no um I mean, the work itself is sort of nuclear in the sense that it's just the biggest hitting, next to, say, someone who has magical powers or, psychedelics or something like this. It's the biggest we have. Um, but there's some people out there hoping that they're going to have enlightenment in a moment and then all their problems go away. Not saying you do or anything, but I found that approach just is so impractical for so many people. It's not even really worth talking about. Um, so yeah, there's no real way to make sure that you're dealing with all your shadow. I mean, that's I'll probably still be 80 years old, be like, oh, what are you doing down there? But you get to a point where you're pretty much in relationship with enough in most of your stuff that none of it's taking you out or running you anymore, any kind of destructive ways. Um, but that takes some time. Most
David,
people,
in
most people's egos aren't even most people's egos aren't even prepared to even do it in 5 years, let alone in a year or let alone in a week. Um, and there's just no real point to. People are rushing, and people are in a lot of pain and suffering, and they just want it to end. But if you got 50 years of suffering, and I'm just unfortunately it just that's going to take some time. It doesn't have to take your whole life. It doesn't have to be long and hard and challenging, but it's like saying, all right, I'm 5 years old. How do I get through all the school stuff in 10 days so I can, go to college? It's pointless. It's such a, yeah, it's not a thing. Not saying that you're asking that. I'm just giving like a more generalized answer. So what else is in your question?
yeah, I think you really clarified a lot. I guess I was thinking like, you get to a certain point where it's like your shadow is not really, you're fully in relationship to whatever. I mean, it's not necessarily like negative anymore. It's that you're just fully like
Hmm.
in relationship with your whole, I guess, or instead of just like the nice parts or whatever. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you are. That's true. It's just it takes more than 2 weeks for anybody I've seen. Yeah.
So it's more like just as it appears or as it like comes out, you
Yeah,
just have.
or in this work, we go in on purpose. right? So we can condense 10 lifetimes of stumbling across things and dealing with stuff as you stumble across it and trial and error in life. We can condense that into a few years, which is miraculous. People, the problem is people are spending their whole life suffering, and then they've tried all this stuff, and then I say, give yourself a few years, and they're like, oh my God, listen, most people never do it their entire lifetimes. If you do it in 20 years, if you even ever do it, it's a miracle. If you do it in 30 years, amazing. 10 years, I mean, less than 0.0001%. It's 2 points. It's so low percentage of people, there's 2 decimal points that ever do it. And so if you ever even do it, give yourself 10 years, 5 years. If you do it in 5 years and you're awakened and you're out of suffering, I mean, that's nothing else can even touch a stick to that. But that requires a willingness and a courage to actually face these things and show up and do whatever it takes. This process is a do whatever it takes process. So we scare off a lot of passerbys. So a lot of people that come through, we see them for once. I mean, how many people you've seen come in here once and just are scared and you just never see them again, or come to a workshop and they do it once and they just can't handle it. It's very intense. It's literally some of the most. Phone is over. See, we're so intense. Our phone's overheating. um, but yeah, so it's challenging. I get it, man. I came to this work after 8 years of personal development work already, and I'm like, fuck. What do you mean years? I already spent 8 years doing this, and then it took me 5 years, 3 years of nearly everyday intense with my mentor, like at his house, being entrained and everyday feedback. I mean, like a workshop or a private session every day for pretty much 3 years. Um, it took that to save my life. And then it took another, I don't know, 2 years to get back on my feet after, because he passed. Um, and so it took me about 2 years to integrate all of that and come out of my metamorphosis. So it was like 3 years decomposing, in the cocoon. And then it took about 2 years of coming out of that cocoon and learning how to flap my wings and move through the world. And um, you don't go back. Like, I'm not going back to the cocoon or the caterpillar. Um, but you have to undergo that death process, that dissolution. Um, and that's more of like a spiritual understanding. Um, but I mean, you can see Elaine. I mean, she is a completely different person than we first met her a year ago. If anybody's seen like some of her first calls, I mean, it is truly, we're so proud of her. It's just remarkable. Like I'm fucking impressed. I'm like, really? This is amazing.
I can't believe it. Sometimes I'm like, I am so out of, I still can go into it suffering, but
Yeah.
so many days I'm just like, this has been an awesome day and I'm smiling and it's a miracle.
Yeah, she came here depressed. I mean, feeling like at the bottom of the ocean, just lost, right? If you just imagine what being at the bottom miles of an ocean feels like, cold, pressure, empty, dead. She wasn't laughing. I mean, she wasn't crying. She wasn't, you know, any of this stuff. And now she's glowing, wearing all these beautiful colors and clothes and smiling and articulating and, just doing things she's never done. It's been amazing. But she's been willing to absolutely do whatever it takes. And she's invested time, money, blood, sweat, and tears. She's trusted, she's surrendered, she's shown up. every day. Um, and yeah, it shows. It shows.
And it, yes, and I want to relate this to today. I've been es kind of estranged from my oldest daughter. She's 16 and we just don't talk. So I decided to make a time and I said, I want to talk to you. And I was amazed at how easy it was, because usually I would be like, this is so hard. But since I've had all this time with Andrew, it's like, this is so easy. But she came and she didn't want to say anything. And I just, really gave it a heartfelt, like, it's okay if you don't want to say anything. I want to apologize about these things. And it was a beautiful conversation with me just talking, but I could see a little bit of stuff going into her. But I'm so grateful to be where I'm at. And for something like that uncomfortableness to actually not feel like I can't do it or that it's impossible. It's just, it's life. And it's okay for me to feel like a horrible, awful mom and all these things that I did. And it's beautiful to be able to say, I'm sorry to my daughter and feel all of that. And so I'm really happy
I'm
to be.
sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's a joke, Elaine. We're also teaching Elaine a sense of humor too. She didn't have one of those.
I'm not getting that yet. I'll look at the replay.
Sorry to hear that you're so happy all the time and things are working.
Yeah,
Sarcasm.
I got it.
I had a wonderful day. I'm sorry to hear that.
I love how you said this work is nuclear.
Yeah,
So true.
yeah, it's really, I mean, people don't have a context. People are just so used to, okay, sit down, tell me about your day. Oh, that's sad. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. Well, maybe write down three things you're grateful for, and then we'll come back next week. Here's some books you can read about habits, and what I mean, it's a combination of awakening and enlightenment with becoming high functional in the world with um, very deep trauma healing and an embodiment. I mean, it really is, it includes everything. And it's an undertaking to kind of codify everything to say, this is how it applies to this area and this area and this area and this area. Because most people just get a hammer and they just see nails. And this is like nuclear energy. It can be used for so many things, right? You just plug it into the grid and you can power a billion different things. Um, and it just, yeah, I mean, it's this. Even if you think about it in a weapon sense, what's going to do better, squirt gun, or a nuclear bomb. And this is really it. But with it, there's not, I'm gonna say, yeah, there's dangers. There's things to be cautioned about. Not everybody's ready. We're dealing with we're dealing with everything. Everything, rape, murder, molestation. Just everything, poverty, scarcity, abuse, neglect, um, hiding out, intimacy, relationships, sexuality, all of these things. And yeah, we're just very blessed to have this work, have the technology to do this. Just even in the past, what, 7 years or so, to even have something like Zoom that we can all meet together over video, and then to have the video technology to even record, up until, what, 30, 50 years ago, to even have the technology that does the video. Um, yeah, we're, we're really blessed. Um, And as the kids say, it's the new one of the new trendy phrases. If you know, you know. And so those of you that have experienced this, you know what it is. If you haven't, it looks like nothing. Shake your hands. Okay. All right, iPhone. We're closing out anyways. So we'll see you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this, but I got to get back to work.
Yeah, tell your husband best of luck.
I
Yeah,
think he's
we said hi.
listening to it. He's listening to the audiobook anyway, so
Yeah. Well, tell him I say hi through the.
I will. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everyone. See
All
ya.
right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Anybody have any last anythings?
I was going to say earlier to David, when I was listening to your question, the one word that I heard you say in the question was, what could you do to trigger blah blah blah? And the immediate answer that came to me was feedback. And those, like the fellowship calls, have provided for me, and I think everybody here who's on there would agree, like you want something to trigger
To trigger you.
something to look at. Come to the fellowship and get feedback.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly. I was just trying. Yeah, that's right. The feedback is essential. I mean, just there's things you just don't see yourself, obviously.
Yeah, and two, just living your life. I personally have experienced. I tell people you want the two fastest, um, most powerful paths of growth. If you do it consciously, right? If you choose these as paths for growth and transformation, um, probably the two most powerful ones: entrepreneurship, which I will define as um, making a living, creating and selling whatever art, creation, business, widget, service. It's taking what's inside, what you're passionate about, what you love, your gifts, and monetizing them and bringing your gifts into service of the world and supporting yourself and others from it. So that's what I sort of define entrepreneurship as. And the second, relationships. The more relationships you have, the more different kinds you have. Of course, probably number one being your intimate relationship, with whatever partners on your journey. Um, your parents, right? Family, siblings, then probably your children, grandchildren. And then if you're in entrepreneurship, right? Employees, leadership, clients, all this sort of stuff. But of course, number one being that primary intimate relationship, was all of the things that you have to learn and become and you discover, and they get triggered and activated. Anybody that's been in a relationship and they're doing it consciously, you're going to discover a lot of wounds, a lot of traumas, a lot of shadow material, a lot of stuff like that. And entrepreneurship too. I mean, just who you have to become to be a great partner, and who you have to become to make a living sharing your gifts with the world. I mean, you can become awakened, enlightened, you can heal, you can, everything from those two things. I'm biased, of course, because I've been in entrepreneurship since I was 18, and I just got into all of my healing work and personal development from not being able to have a relationship. So I'm biased, but I have yet to come across anything that could do it that fast, that's sustainable over a lifetime. There's other things like hitting rock bottom, getting a disease, um, traumas, things like that, like things happening to you that can be great initiators. But as far as your conscious choice, that's a lifelong sustainable thing. Yeah, like that's. But you have to do it consciously. If you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna make an online business and work from my laptop, or I'm just gonna marry whoever comes along next and figure it out, they won't be. So you can turn anything into a learning experience. I mean, I'll watch an advertisement and I can turn that into a learning experience. Oh, how are they doing this? What's the psychology? Oh, what's, I can go through it to figure out what the fucking script writers must see about reality in the world in order to create, a thing like that, watching a movie. Um, so there's opportunities to learn, to grow, to transform everywhere. Um, but if you want to be face to face with all of the things holding you back in your life, entrepreneurship, relationships, it's an organic process, right? Um, if you want to condense that, right, you come to a workshop or something like this where we can focus that in, because if you do those things, you're just trial and erroring through your life, and that's fine. That's great. Um, but if you already know what's up, we can work on it and accelerate that. And instead of spending 10 years trying to figure out, well, why are my relationships not working? How come I can't launch my business? Well, in a couple of days of doing this work, I can give you all of those answers. It may take some time to solve them, um, but in one call, in a few minutes of watching somebody move, I know exactly why they're stuck. It's right there in the body. Oh, okay. Well, you have been unable to um, anything from attract a mate to get anybody to buy your product. I just see in the body, oh, well, you're shut down. Oh, you're pushing people away. Oh, you're hiding. You're not wanting to be seen. Well, of course. How are you going to sell a product if you don't want anybody to see you? How are you going to find a partner if you're keeping everybody away at a distance and not letting anybody in? And those are, I see those like that. And so you can bypass years or decades of suffering and struggle through just a few minutes of moving in your body.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought you were going through like a checklist of stuff, like while you were laying in bed, and just triggering it or something like that, and I was just curious, but I understand much better now.
I'm sure, one interesting thing that I've been thinking of, because I'm going to be writing a cinesomatic book and then coming up with a home study course, and then eventually I have to come up with training manuals when we license facilitators, certified facilitators. And that's like a huge thing. That could be like a 4-year degree level, you know, eh, 6-figure kind of, university PhD level education. Um, and so that's some years away, but I'm already starting to think and plant the seeds of, well, is there a list, David? Right? Can we come up with a list of the top 100 most common, most destructive, most limiting things that people do, and sort of check in and say, okay, do you allow people in to help you? Yes or no? Are you avoiding looking at the skeletons in your closet? Yes or no? So there might be, a checklist like that. Um, do you judge men for being too masculine or women for being too feminine? Do you judge yourself for not being enough? Whatever it is. So I've noticed patterns. Now, the trouble with that is that there's a bias of people that are attracted to me in this process and this work that might be a certain kind of people. I overwhelmingly attract a certain kind of person than not, and that can be a bias. But yeah, it's just some thoughts. This is the leading edge. I'm literally creating this as we go. Um, the only danger with doing it as the approach that you did is that it fosters the stop living, start fixing mindset, which is the opposite of what we want. The last thing we want to do is just lock you in a room for 10 years until you fix everything and now you're perfect enough to leave. Not saying that you are, but as an extreme example, which is what I did in a way, I did, instead of going out and meet people, I'm like, all right, I'm insecure. All right. I had journals. I mean, I had notebooks of limiting beliefs, negative emotions, things to clear and fix and delete and all this stuff. It just didn't work. I said, holy shit, I am adding more to the list of what's wrong with me faster than I am getting rid of it. This cannot possibly be the way. So that's one of the booby traps to look out for. You're going to have a much richer life actually going out in a relationship and healing stuff in real time than being locked away for 5 years and wanting to be perfect before you get out there. Again, that not saying that's what you were suggesting, but as an extreme. We could just lock you in the basement and just throw you in some crackers every few days. Did you clear all your shadows yet? Ah! All right. Anybody else? Final thoughts?
I might just say hi.
Hi.
Hi. I wanted to say from the last call, like in the last 2 weeks, things have changed so much. I think after the call, like, and just reading the book and just going into stuff. I don't know if it's like all shifting. Like this is
It's a
today will
completely
be.
unrelated coincidence.
Yeah, maybe. So I just stopped smoking weed after I think I've been smoking since I was like 19 years old. And it was just like, and I've been holding on to it for so long of just like I can't stop. All the stories, all the stories, all the stories. I'm like, I managed to stop smoking cigarettes a little while ago, but I just couldn't quit the weed, and I really think I needed to. So that was amazing. Like that was, yeah. So this time 2 weeks
Congratulations.
ago, thank you, was the last time I smoked a joint that night. It was my son's birthday actually when I spoke to you. So I had to do the birthday party and whatever. So that was really good. So yeah, I mean I can go into more. And then this
Tell me
night
more.
was the first time I had a dream, and it was such a vivid dream. So like I haven't had dreams for years, and it was just like this owl, this white, like it was this guy that was standing there, and he was like, "Don't you worry, there's like I can see it coming. This like we just call it in," and then this owl just like appeared, and then enlightened itself, and then just flew towards me and almost jumped on my arm, but then there was an awkward moment where he didn't, just like jumped next to me.
Oh,
It was very, yeah, it was very, very cool. And yeah, so I mean, going into a little bit more of my story is I've been trying to leave my husband for this is my third attempt of moving out, and then always get sucked back in. And I think you like really is epitome of like a not like a narcissist. I don't want to say the word, but it really is like I don't know, I don't think I have my own thoughts anymore is that point. So this was the first night tonight that I've actually moved back into my house, like that I've been renting. I've taken my daughter with me, my son is with my husband, but yeah, it's just been amazing 2 weeks of like having the call, stopping the weed, now moving back in and feeling stronger again. I cried for 3 days though after your call. I think it was like a release of like I kind of had seeing a partner where it was beautiful, so beautiful, but not the right time. I don't want to go through a divorce and stuff when there's another person involved. I want to do that. Like they don't need that in their lives. So yeah, in the last 2 weeks has been these huge. I actually managed to not speak to her for the last 2 weeks. Like it's a girl, but we just had this like every time we've tried to split our thing up, there's always been stories to like, oh, I miss you, or this or that, and back into the stories. So like, yeah, in the last 2 weeks, I've managed to not break my stories of like let her be on her own path, stopping the weed, and then moving out and feeling strong about it to like push it forward now. So yeah,
great.
lots is happening.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
What has there been any particular things that from the book or any awarenesses you've had that have been a catalyst for this?
really just this, just stop the stories, just stop.
Just stop.
Let's say what you say. Okay, we're going to create the new affirmations, and we're going to, try to create this new life, and then you're trying to kind of focus on that, which it has its place, and it's creating the vision, but just stop. That's it. If you catch yourself doing it, just stop. So it's been good. Just reading the book and actually seeing it from a different perspective. I mean, I've been able to stop cigarettes, but it took me 9 years to quit smoking cigarettes, So just just stop. So now it's just getting my business back together. That's the next thing. And that's the opposite of just stop. It's like stop procrastinating. So just do.
Well, even that, if you stop the procrastination, natural inclination of the human is to create.
Yeah.
Look at children, right?
Hmm.
You better get that box of crayons and start having fun or else. No. That's not at all how it happens. They want to. It's natural. So the more that, anytime, it's not to say that you don't do things, right? But when it comes to the healing work, yeah, it's all about stopping.
Hmm.
You don't need to go out there and learn how to love. You just have to heal and stop all of the things that you do that keep it from flowing. It's built in. You can learn ways of communicating. You can learn ways on how to meet people's needs better. Relationship stuff, sure. But so much is just built in. And, it's such a good default. Just stop. Yeah. And then it's important to know what stopping is, because you could spend a whole year thinking you're stopping when you're actually just suppressing, getting constipated. Oh, you're still unmuted, David. We heard you laugh. It's okay. I've been constipated many times. Great. It's good to hear. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all for joining and listening. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
We have our workshops coming up here, Cinesomatic Relation in April here in Nashville, Tennessee. We have Cinesomatic Exploration online in May. We have Cinesomatic Slackline here in Nashville in June. We have a 2-weekend workshop, Cinesomatic Life Map in August. And then our 10-day retreat, The Mysteries, here in Tennessee, October of 2025. You can go to andrewdaniel.org and click on the events and workshops page to sign up and register. All right, we'll see you next week.